Hey Money Nerds, today we're going to be talking about how to design your 2026 adventure year without breaking the bank. Every year, we often think about what would be so fun, and this is usually around the New Year's. We start to do some goal setting, we start to think, we start to, maybe set some intentions around travel and road trips and just having like a little bit more adventure in our normal day-to-day life. But what if you actually did the adventures this year that you have always said you were going to do? You actually started to prioritize it and making it happen. And the important piece is you're able to do all of this without sabotaging your budget. This isn't just a pie in the sky dream. This is something that can happen with a little bit of intentionality and planning and being ahead of the curve here. You can make this happen. So today we're going to build your adventure plan, which is going to be a realistic and intentional way to help you have more adventure and fun in your everyday life. Okay, so let's get started. The first thing I want you to do is start with your calendar. This is your adventure blueprint, so to speak. What I like to do is when I'm starting to think through all the different adventures or the things that I think would be kind of fun or maybe a little interesting, is I like to start with just like having a printed copy of January through December. And I'll put those like printed copies of the calendar right in front of me so that I can visually see how the whole year is going to look. And then what I can start to do is say, what types of activities do I want to incorporate into my life? You're going to look at your calendar, and every 2 to 3 months, you're going to block off a weekend that fits for your life for like an adventure weekend. I think this is like a bare minimum. It doesn't have to be expensive. It can be something really simple, but having a weekend where it's already on the calendar, but just jot down what weekend every 2 to 3 months you can sneak away for just a little bit of fun and adventure. Just block that off in your calendar now. The other thing to start to block off on calendars is any type of seasonal windows. I love doing a lot of camping and I love renting old fire lookout towers, but these are things that you can't just book, a month in advance. You have to actually book these like usually 6 to 8 months in advance. It's kind of insane. So what I do is I have on recreation.gov, I use the app, which I think is great. So on the recreation.gov app, I will start to just like go through and I will save campsites, lookout towers, cabins sometimes. I'll just save those into a list. And so it goes into like my wish list. And then from there, I can start to see when things open so I can start to try to book spots. So for example, if I'm going to a fire lookout tower that opens in mid-June, I probably can't book until 6 months in advance, which means mid-January is when I'm going to be marking my calendar to go try to book these lookout towers. So it is a little bit of like kind of sometimes luck of the draw, but it's nice to know that if you are trying to plan a weekend adventure, you really do have to be a little bit more forward thinking when it comes to that. Campsites are usually pretty easy to get about 6 months in advance. And so those are ones where you don't have to be like checking your computer every day, but those lookout towers, they're a hot commodity, so they go fast. So on my calendar, I literally have a reminder to check the specific lookout towers that I want to book. It's kind of nerdy, but you have to do it. Other thing I'm starting to mark or think through is when certain national parks might open up their campsites. So I know I live close-ish to Yellowstone National Park, so for us, it's not camping year round, right? There's also a season where bears come out of hibernation and wildlife is like in the spring. You can't camp in specific campgrounds because of that for safety reasons. And so what I will do is I will start to mark on my calendar when certain campsites will open up so that I can book those spots if I choose. This is true for their lodge or their cabins in many national parks, but it's very similar all across the board. So you do want to kind of look and see when do you need to be on top of looking at places so that you can book your favorite times. The other thing that I personally like to do is I got very into rock hounding recently, of finding sapphires and gems and stones of any type. I just think it's really fun and I've been super into that. So I try to set a goal of having one rock hounding adventure per year. And this year, I think it's my opal year. I think so. So I'm looking at my calendar to say, when can I sneak away to go opal mining? When is it going to make sense? When is their season? When does it open? But I'm doing all of this well in advance. Like we're talking in early of the year of 2026, so that all of my 2026 is a little bit more fluid and fun. Another thing that I think is important, if you can swing it. Now, if you are managing credit cards very appropriately and you have no issues whatsoever, you might have some points that you could then leverage for hotels or for flights. So those are important things to think about too. But one thing that we did recently that I was really pretty impressed with was the Southwest Companion Pass. I don't think this is available all the time, but if it is something that you can utilize, try it out and see if it fits for your life. The important thing is when you're doing this, you're not overspending just for the sake of getting the companion pass or the points with credit cards. It's spending you already would have done. And so if you're looking into that, that Southwest Companion Pass is really great. I think that Alaska Airlines has a similar one as well. I haven't tried theirs, so I don't know. But we did do a Southwest Companion Pass, and the way it works is when you earn that for 1 year, you can book one flight at full price. You get a companion that gets to come for either free or very discounted. And then for us, Charlotte is under 2, so she's still a lap infant for us. So she rode on my lap and we made it work. And the way that we stack this too is we try to do it where we will combine it with a time that Tony might have like a work trip. So that way it's not so expensive and he can book his normal flight through work. I could do the companion pass, and then we can bring Charlotte with us and do an extended trip there too. So it's kind of a fun way to go if you have work travel yourself or your partner or even a friend. You can always make it work that way. I do think this is a really good opportunity too for weekend getaways or visiting cities that you may not typically go to. And the cool thing about this is if you are strategic and thoughtful, you can book your flights and book your hotels in slight off season for different locations, and it's going to save you a crap ton of money. And just a reminder, please pay your cards off in full. If you can't do that, this is probably not a great strategy for you to use. Credit card points can be helpful, but it's not the end all be all. Like I've did so much travel without any of that stuff. And so if you don't feel like it's something you can manage appropriately, or you do often carry a balance, just completely disregard this tip because it probably is just going to get into more trouble, unfortunately. Okay, next part of having an adventurous year is to have the funds to take these adventures so that they are a blessing instead of a curse. The way to do this is to set up an adventure fund, which is essentially just a savings account that you're putting a little bit of money into every single month or every paycheck. If that seems overwhelming, then start to just try once a month. Or maybe it's like if you get a little extra cash or you have a birthday and you get some cash for your birthday, put that into your adventure fund. The goal here is that you're constantly building up a little chunk of money so that when all of this fun stuff does come up and all the things you put on your calendar, you can actually afford to say yes to those and it doesn't even affect your day-to-day spending. There are standard savings accounts that I'd recommend for this. So I personally like Ally Bank as my savings. I think it's great. This way it works is you open up one generic account and then you have buckets underneath. So it's one account, but your money's like enveloped or siloed into different buckets so that it's all separated so you can see clearly where your money's going towards. I also really like the app Capital for this. I think Capital is a really great app. There is a fee attached to it, but I used it for a really, really long time for travel funds. And I felt like it was nice. The way Capital works is you can set different rules or goals attached to it. So like, let's say you have a goal of walking 10,000 steps a day. When you achieve that goal, it will save money for you. You can say, every time I achieve this, save $5. You can also tie it to like a budget. So maybe if you spend less than $50 a month on your coffee budget and say you only spent $30, it would save that $20 that you saved and put that towards your adventure fund. There's lots of different ways you can approach it. I think it can be a good one. Technology can be your friend here, or you can just open up a traditional savings account and just put money away. The other thing to think through is any like tax refunds. That's a good time to fund some of your adventure fund as well. Cashback bonuses, like there's so many different options here, but the important piece is that you have that account available and ready so that you can easily start to fund it when things come up. Okay, so let's recap. Your personal 2026 adventure plan. You're gonna have all of your calendars in front of you for the entire year blocked off for a weekend adventure, and hopefully you fill that with some fun things like rock hounding, national parks, just a quick getaway to a lake, like whatever you feel is appropriate. And from there, you're going to start to just fill in the things that seem fun to you. Maybe it's going to the zoo or checking out that restaurant you've always wanted to go to, but can never seem to get reservations for. Now's the time to start to book that stuff so that you have the ability to enjoy and have more adventure. Road trips, put that on the calendar. Any larger trips that you're hoping to take, ideally you can put that on the calendar. That one might be a little bit harder depending on your style of travel. But the important piece here is that you're thoughtful and you're thinking about all the different elements and all the different things that you want to do to have a more adventurous, fun year. And also don't forget to look into Southwest Companion if that's a good fit for you, or Alaska's Companion Pass. And if appropriate and you don't have a savings account set up for adventure yet, start that today and just start to put like $5 in and just let it sit for now until you start to get a little bit more detailed in your budget and can put more money into that account. I hope that your 2026 is adventurous, it's intentional, it's fun, and it really does light you up. And with a little bit of that forward planning, I think it will really make a big difference and you can have probably one of your best years yet. All right, I would love to see some of your adventures and hear some of the fun things that you're thinking about. So take a screenshot, take a picture, come hang out with me on Instagram, send me what you're working on. I always think it's so fun and I always get inspired by what you're up to as well. All right, that is it for today. Thank you so much for hanging out, and I will see you next week for another episode of the Money Nerds podcast. Bye.